something fascinating is afoot. Now, James Comey has come out just yesterday and said, yes, the investigation of Hillary Clinton is not some sort of inquiry. There is no such thing. It is an investigation. That's what we do at the FBI, right? And then all of a sudden, Hillary Clinton supporters who are in the role of cleaning up for her started appearing on TV. I'll get to that in a second. And then Biden came out, and Biden said a couple of things that really make you go, which I'll get to in a second. But first, clues started to appear from the right wing. Now, easy to dismiss those, right? But recently, for example, Boehner just said that, quote, he would not be surprised at all if Clinton has to withdraw and Biden parachutes in. Now, okay, easy to dismiss Judge Napolitano on Fox News and his so-called sources. You might think it's easy to dismiss Boehner, but I told you on this program right after the Indiana primary, so all the way back then, because I was in Washington, and the chatter in Washington among reporters was that if Hillary Clinton gets indicted, the Democratic Party will not support Bernie Sanders, and I reported on this program who they would support, Joe Biden. Now, all of a sudden, Joe Biden's everywhere. But before we get to Biden, I want to show you Sidney Blumenthal. So let me show you the clip and then tell you who Blumenthal is.
The big fear of many Democrats who I've spoken to is that Hillary Clinton will become the nominee of the Democratic Party, and then something will happen during the general. There will be some bombshell, another shoe will drop, and it will scuttle her race. How confident are you that that won't happen?
I'm very confident that that will not happen.
How do you know?
My understanding is that this is a security review. It's certainly not a criminal investigation.
But it is an investigation.
It's an inquiry into whether or not anyone intentionally put classified information where it shouldn't be. And my understanding is that they will conclude, and the Department of Justice will issue a statement at the end, that that was not the case. And then all those who were involved in this kind of political hysteria will have to unravel it.
Okay, so Camerata asked a couple of good questions there. So first of all, if you notice, she said a lot of Democrats are concerned that this is coming out. Okay, now it's one thing when Republicans are concerned. It's another thing when Democratic politicians all of a sudden are concerned because they're hearing things we're not hearing. Then secondly, she asked, how do you know? How in the world would Sidney Blumenthal know what's going on inside the FBI? And if he does, they should investigate him for that. Now, who is Sidney Blumenthal? Now, again, I know him a tiny bit here. I met him a long, long time ago, and so I'm partial to him because he was nice to me. But I know who he is. He's the cleaner. He's the guy that comes in to clean up messes. Why is the cleaner on TV? Because there's a mess coming. You don't bring out Sidney Blumenthal if you don't have any issues. They got issues, and it's coming. Okay, so now, much more important than all of that is Biden. Because now remember what they said, all the guys in the establishment, about why they were so confident there'd be no Hillary Clinton indictment. Because what they kept saying to us over and over is, oh, you guys are so naive. You see, if there's going to be an indictment, the Obama administration would know that, and what they would do is they would get Biden out there to make sure that at least that would be an option if Hillary can't keep going. And all of a sudden, here comes Biden. Watch.
No regrets? I know that before you said that you didn't run, but you knew that it was the right decision for your family. But
look, I had planned on running. It's an awful thing to say. I think I would have been the best president, but it was the right thing, not just for my family, for me.
Okay, now that was yesterday, and John Iadarola on this show made a good point. He said, wait, why is Biden talking about how he'd be the best president? Now, I said yesterday on the program, hey, look, no big deal. Here's a guy who thinks, well, he ran for president. Of course he thinks he would have been the best president. And I said that was an issue. Okay. But that's one data point. And the guy's doing a cancer outreach, doing the cancer moonshot. They ask him, he answers it. But then the next day, there's a news story about Joe Biden, and who he would have picked as his VP. Uh-oh. Now this is interesting. Here's Politico. Joe Biden took months to decide he wouldn't run for president, but he was sold on Elizabeth Warren as his running mate from the start. People familiar with the situation told Politico. Again, if you don't know how Washington works, when you want to get a story out there, you go to a reporter, Washington Post, New York Times, Politico, whoever, and you start saying things like, here's who Biden would have picked as his VP. Why in the world would we care who Biden would have picked as his VP if he had run? Unless that's not an if. Okay, now we've got two data points. We've got him saying I'd be the best president, and now he's telling us who his VP is. And by the way, the person that he's picking is Elizabeth Warren, who is one of the most progressive senators out there. And if they wanted to put Biden in place of Hillary Clinton, well, the Bernie Sanders progressives would be super pissed. Who would you try to assuage them with? Elizabeth Warren. Okay, so the funny thing is, a lot of people who will go around and go, you can't see it, oh no, that's no way, it's conspiracy theory. But do you know anything about politics? Do you think that politicians just come out and go, oh yeah, we got word from the Justice Department that an indictment is actually now more likely rather than less likely. So Joe's going to go out there and talk about that and say that he might take her place. If you think that's how politics works, you don't know anything about politics. Shh, you're embarrassing yourself, okay? So now, look, it is also possible that there is another explanation. So we're trying to give you all the options here, right? So Ted Kaufman is a longtime supporter of Joe Biden, worked with Biden for almost his entire career. And by the way, Ted Kaufman is a real progressive. So he says in that same Politico article, she's someone that was discussed, referring to Elizabeth Warren. She's clearly someone anyone would consider. Okay, now here's your alternate idea as to why they went to Politico. Because they went to Politico for a reason. And again, if you're a political reporter and you don't understand that, boy, deeply embarrassing, right? Not like, hey, golly gee, I was walking across the street and this reporter from Politico came out and I thought I'd give him anonymous quotes about who I think should be VP. No, there's a reason why they went. So an alternate reason is Kaufman's a real progressive. Maybe Biden and his crew are real progressives and they think that Warren's the right way to go. Or even if they're not real progressives, they think that the wise choice for Hillary Clinton would be Elizabeth Warren. So they're putting that out in public to pressure her to pick Elizabeth Warren. Now, if that was the only part of the story, I would say that's probably more likely. Just like I said yesterday, when the only part of the story was Biden saying, well, I think I would have made the best president, I said that's not that big a deal. But now, that in combination with the new comments, in combination with Sidney Blumenthal, in combination with Democrats being concerned, in combination with Republicans being very confident that she's going to get indicted, all of a sudden things are brewing. Things are brewing. So, and on top of all of that, you actually have the FBI director coming out and saying, yes, it is definitely an investigation. It is not what Blumenthal called a security review or inquiry. There are no such things. And now every reporter is explaining that it's coming near to a conclusion. Now, I'm not going to tell you I know what the conclusion of that is. I don't think they've interviewed Hillary Clinton yet, so they haven't even come to a conclusion. But obviously, some people in the Democratic Party are concerned. And it appears that what they just did was they just threw Joe Biden out there as a life insurance policy for the establishment. In case this thing goes south, and they now think that it might go south, oh, look at that, here's Joe Biden. Oh, right, he would have made the best president. Oh, right, he already has Elizabeth Warren as the person he would pick as VP. Progressives, aren't you happy? That's the game that's being played right now. Okay, and what is my opinion of that move? If they try to put Biden in there and try to steal this from Bernie Sanders when Biden didn't even run, that is not going to play well. That is a gross understatement. It will be a debacle of epic proportions.
Don't support the phonies. Support the real. You know what I mean? How can these people be talking about how they so real and they don't care about our communities? How can they be talking about what they, all this, you know, the hood, blah, 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 blah. They don't care about our communities. You know what I mean? Listen to the words that people say in their lyrics.